For most of his life, my grandfather was away at sea. He sailed across every ocean 100 times and traveled through every country of the world, from the plains of Patagonia to the distant volcano of Tristan da Cunha. He had 7 wives and 11 children, was a prince and a pirate, lived with kings and queens, and ate off plates of solid gold. When I was 10 and grandfather was very old, he came home. As autumn arrived and the leaves began to fade, he climbed into bed and sat for days, looking out over the harbor toward the faint horizon. At the top of the bed, his parrot, Titanic, fell silent and began to molt. Beside the bed sat a large wooden chest. Everything he had collected through his long life was packed into it. It's for you, he said to me. Everything you could ever want is in that chest if you know where to look for it. I want you to be well again, grandfather, I said. I will be, he said, closing his eyes, when you get to Atlantis. I thought Atlantis was just a story. That's only narrow-minded people talking. They wouldn't believe it if you led them down the main street, he said. All you have to do is look in the right place. But I'm only 10, grandfather. They won't let me go anywhere. Atlantis is right here, all around you, he said. You have to learn how to look for it. The old man started to sink deep into the pillows, as if part of him had drifted away to another place. The room fell completely silent, like a bubble floating far above the moon. The autumn sun set on the rooftops, and the whole town looked as if it were made of gold. As the light faded, grandfather set out on his final journey across a sea of dreams and gray feathers. "Hello, sailor," said Titanic, and looked away so no one could see the sadness in his eyes. Grandfather's chest held a lifetime of treasures. There were cutlasses sharp enough to cut the sky in half, and telescopes that could see mermaids at the bottom of the darkest sea. There were pirates' eye patches as black as night, and 47 different kinds of ship's biscuit. There were gold coins, rubies, diamonds, silver stars, and a large can of Albert's parrot powder. You have to learn how to look for it, grandfather's voice said inside my head, and sure enough, right at the bottom of the chest, hidden under a saxophone, a $1,000 bill, was a little door. And through the door was treasure. I didn't show anyone what I'd found. They wouldn't believe in Atlantis. It's just a silly old man's dream, they would have said. Grandfather had said you had to look at things with your imagination. You have to shut your eyes, he said, and open your heart. When you can do that, everything you ever wanted will be right in front of you. I tried to look at everything the way Grandfather had said I should. I looked around the room, then closed my eyes and tried to see it all inside my head, but everything was muddled up like a dream. I looked in every dark corner and in every book. I looked on every shelf and in every cupboard. But all I could see was all I could see. I had been through every room in the house and had found nothing. Once or twice I thought I'd seen something out of the corner of my imagination. But when I'd opened my eyes and looked, it had just been Titanic's feathers falling through the sunlight. Maybe Atlantis was an old man's dream, or maybe I just couldn't see things the right way. I began to feel very small and lost. The old parrot tried to fly into the darkness below the stairs, but he had grown so bald that he could no longer fly. He fell head over heels down the wooden steps and lay squawking at the bottom. I ran down the steps and picked up the old bird. Through his cold skin, I could feel his tiny heartbeat, a minute pulse that had carried him through 30 years of life. There were tears on his chest, but I think they were mine. We stood in the darkness, both feeling the awful loss of someone we had loved. The darkness grew darker. Eyes open, eyes closed, it was all the same. And then, as we stood there below the house, the sun came out. And there was Atlantis. My grandfather had been right. At last I had learned how to look. I had learned that hopes and dreams are not just inside your head, and that I could keep Atlantis and grandfather in my heart forever.